Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our program, Toddlers and Tablets and Storytime. I'm Jamie Machik with the Nicolet Federated Library System in Green Bay. We have a short presentation today. This is a 30-minute session, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Our presenter today is Cathy Kolbeck, and she is a children's librarian at the Algoma Public Library. So, Cathy, whenever you are ready, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Cathy Kolbeck. I am the children's librarian here at the Algoma Public Library. I have been here for just over 1 year, and I started using apps in Storytime about 8 months ago. I have gotten a great response from the kids, the parents, and the grandparents. So for this webinar, I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of using apps in Storytime, how I use the apps, and go over some of my favorite apps. I've also put together an all iPad Storytime to give you an idea of all of the different parts of a Storytime that can be used with the apps. Benefits of using apps in Storytime. Okay, so why use apps in Storytime and what are their benefits? Are there any benefits? Well, as children's librarians, we read picture books in Storytime. When we are doing this, one of the things we are doing is we're showing the parents, in my case it's mostly grandparents for my toddler Storytime, how to engage with the child when we read. We'll ask questions, we'll talk about what might happen next, we'll use silly voices and try to make it fun and engaging for the kids. Well, we can do the same thing with apps. We can model to the parents how to engage with the child while playing with the app, just like we do when we are reading books in Storytime. We can show them the best ways to use the apps. There are many apps that I've used that can be really fun and engaging during Storytime, and we'll talk about those in a bit. So that's one benefit. Another benefit is that the parents and the grandparents that are there can then extend the experience that they've had in the Storytime, and they can bring it home. They can potentially have these same apps on their own devices. Oftentimes, the apps that I use in Storytime are the first ones that the kids will go out and play when Storytime is over, so they can all play together in the library. Another benefit is that the apps can be educational. Technology will be, and it probably already is, a big part of these kids' lives. We should use it with the children in a way that's educational, engaging, and promotes literacy. So there are many educational apps that provide practice with these things, and we can take advantage of this during the Storytime and use it as a learning tool. I do have a resources page that I will show you at the end that includes some of these things. So one last benefit that I will mention is that it's just plain fun. I've gotten a great response from the kids and everyone else. They love it. As we all know, toddlers can be easily distracted. There are times when I just start to lose them, especially during a story. Well, when I get out the iPad, they know we're going to do something fun, and I can bring them right back. So it does keep their attention. How I use the iPad in Storytime. The first picture here, it's a picture of our iPad kiosk that is in our children's area. This was bought for us by our library friends. Right now, we only have 2 iPads, but there is space for another. So hopefully sometime we will get the third. So for story times, I unlock an iPad, I take it out to use during the story time, and then right after story time, I put it back in our kiosk so the kids can play. One of their favorite things to do right after story time is to go to the iPad station. Someday we would like to have an iPad that we can use specifically for programs, but for now this works. So for story times, I use the iPad to project onto a TV we have mounted on a wall right next to my Storytime chair. For this, I use an Apple digital AV adapter, which is this white piece, and then an HDMI cable, which is the black. The adapter and the HDMI cord fit together, and then the adapter goes into the iPad, and the HDMI cable goes into the TV. It's a very, very, very simple setup. For smaller groups, you could just hold the iPad out in front of you for the kids to see, and I have done that a few times. Incorporating apps into Storytime. When I first started using the apps in Storytime, I started out slow. For the first few weeks, let me change this here. For the first few weeks, I added a book app into my Storytime. I've got Read in Bed and Barnyard Dance by Sandra Boynton here, which are two of my favorites. The first book app I ever used was Read in Bed. Immediately after Storytime, I had two little girls went into our iPads and started using this app. I hadn't ever seen them playing this one before, or if they did, they may not have necessarily known how to use it or what was really happening with the story. So I then started adding some other fun apps to my story times, and we'll talk about some of those in a bit. I think that the parents and the grandparents who brought their kids had just as much fun as the children did and still do. The grandparents especially did a lot of oohing and awing the first time we used an app, and actually I still have great reactions to the apps. Right now I typically use about 1 to 2 apps per story time, and I'm the only one to hold or touch the iPad during the story time. I haven't ever had a problem at all with the kids wanting to use it or touch it, so that's been great. All right, so I'm going to briefly talk about some of my favorite apps that I use. Animal Sounds. It's free in the iPad store. It's a fun app. You can use. This is one that you can use without having to project it. So how to use it. You'll see in this first picture it has icons of different animals. When you tap on one of the animals, it shows a big picture of that animal. It tells us what it is and makes the sound of that animal. So if I would touch the screen again, it will show a different picture of the same animal and play another sound of that animal. It gives us 2 examples per animal. So for example, with the cat, if I choose the cat from the first screen, a cat will appear and we'll hear the cat meow. If I touch that cat, another cat picture will appear and we'll hear another cat sound. So holding the iPad so that the kids cannot see, I'll start off by saying something like, we need to be very quiet and listen. Let's see if we can guess what animal is making the sound. So then I'll touch the picture of the animal. It'll make the sound of that animal. And I'll ask the kids what animal they think it might be. I'll let them guess, and then after a few guesses, I turn the tablet around so they can see which animal is making that sound. Some of them are easier than others. I like to start off with a few easy ones first. The dog and the cat are pretty simple, and then might maybe move on to some of the harder ones. For example, the bat and eagle, just looking at this, are pretty difficult. PEEKABOO vehicles. So Animal Sounds, which I just talked about, is an app that I do not project, but all the rest of these that I'm going to talk about, I do. So this is PEEKABOO vehicles. It's $1.99 in the App Store. This is a fun app and one of my toddlers' favorites. So to first play, we'll see the cloud, and we'll hear the sound of a vehicle that we need to guess. So I'll say to the kids, we have to listen very carefully, and let's guess what vehicle is hiding behind the cloud. Once we hear the noise, the kids they'll start guessing what they think it might be. Once we have a few guesses, I tap on the cloud, and whatever vehicle is making the noise will then appear. The kids get really excited for this one. For some reason, actually, this is one of my toddlers' favorites, and I've used it in my preschool story time, and it's one of their favorites. They ask for this one quite a bit. So this app would be great for any transportation-themed story time. They have an ambulance, a car, helicopter, police car, airplane, tractor, and many more, so there really is a nice variety. Feltboard. Feltboard is $2.99 in the App Store. I had heard that months ago it was free. Now it's $2.99, but in my opinion, well worth it. It's a great app, and it brings all the fun and learning of a traditional felt board right to your iPad, and there's no cutting. This app actually has quickly become one of my new favorites. My toddlers love using the flannel board in story time, but when we do this app, they don't seem to miss it at all. So there are so many options to help you make cute felt stories. You can choose a background, people. You have a variety of clothing and hair and accessories for the people. You can choose animals, shapes, numbers, letters, and so many more different items. The bottom middle screenshot here is just a tiny bit of what you can use to make your stories. There are so many options available, and as I'm just getting into this one, I know that there are so many more felt stories I can make to go along with just about any theme. So far I've made 5 in a bed. I've got one screenshot up here, as you can see, one rolled out. I've also done 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed, 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate, and I went to the jungle one day. We can still use our fingers and do the actions while watching on the screen. Like I said, I've only just really begun with this app, and I can't wait to play around with it some more. So as we make our story, we touch the camera icon, which is the second one from the right, and that will save our pictures to our photo album. So once they are saved, we can then make separate albums for each felt story, and we use those albums to tell our felt story. TOCA Robot Lab. It's $2.99 in the App Store. This is an app that can be used like a flannel board as an interactive extension to the Storytime theme. So this would be great with the robot theme. With Robot Lab, the idea is to build a robot. First, we get to pick the legs. As you can see, I've already picked white legs. There are 3 choices on the screen for each item we get to choose. So to build our robot, we pick legs, body, arms, and a head. So I'll either ask as a group if I've got a lot of kids, or I might call on people individually if I have a smaller group. Depending on what the body parts look like, I might ask, which one should we pick? So for example, on the third picture here, we're picking the arms. I've already got one, so I might ask, should we pick the yellow arm, the orange arm, or the red and white arm? And I'll be pointing to them as I say them. So the kids will let me know what we should pick. To build our robot, like I said, we pick legs, body, arms, and then the head. After we have completed our robot, we get to take him to the factory to complete. It has some fun animation to send our robot off, which the kids really like as well. So toddler and tablet story time. Here's an all iPad app story time I put together for this presentation. I'm going to go over each one and talk about how I use them. I haven't ever done a full iPad app story time, but I have used each of these individually quite a few times. So we'll start out with an opening song. I've chosen the Wheels on the Bus, then move on to a weather app, then a story, a song, and an activity, then another story, an action song, a finger play, and another story, and closing song to finish it up. So let's get started. My toddlers love the Wheels on the Bus. This particular app is free. There are many Wheels on the Bus apps out there, but I've got a free one here. So we sing this song a lot in Storytime, but the first time I used this app, they were just so excited. The music is fun, the animation is fun. It's just basically the song with 7 verses. It uses the wheels on the bus go round and round, wipers go swish, horn goes beep, people go up and down, babies go wah, mothers go shh, 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 and then the wheels on the bus again to end it. The first time I used this one, I had a grandmother take a video of her granddaughter dancing and singing along. It was just so fun. They were so excited, and they still get just as excited when we do this one. There's still the dancing along and excitement that goes along with it. Marco Polo Weather. This is another great free app. After our opening song, I like to use this Marco Polo Weather app. It's a great app to teach them about various weather conditions, including rain, thunderstorms, blizzards, tornadoes, hurricanes. With this app, we can see what happens to the weather with various temperatures and wind conditions. This little character here reacts to each of the weather conditions accordingly. When we pick the snow, he shivers. When we change the temperature to hot, he starts sweating. We can also dress him appropriate for the weather. So I'll ask the kids what the weather was like outside. We can change the weather conditions, we can change the temperature and the wind. So I'll start with the weather conditions. As you can see, our options in that first box, we can choose from sunny, partly cloudy, cloudy, rainy, storming, snowing, blizzard, tornado, and hurricane. I might ask, was the sun shining? Was it raining? Was it cloudy? Did you need to wear a jacket when you came to the library today? Was it really, really, really windy? Just some pretty simple questions, and they don't always know the answers, but their parents or grandparents, whoever is with them that day, love to help out. So that's a fun one. Read in Bed. I briefly brought up Read in Bed earlier as being one of the first book apps I used. Read in Bed is 99 cents. It's a very simple storybook app that starts out with all the colors waking up one morning. In this first picture, it reads, "Yellow was the first to wake. Good morning, colors. Good morning," they all agreed, except Red, who groaned, "I feel sick." So since Red is sick and can't do his job, the other colors try to help out by coloring items that are supposed to be red, like strawberries, tomatoes, and more. But there really is no substitute for red, we find out. All the colors go ahead and they try to do Red's job. But as you can see in the second box here, they just turned everything into their own color. So with the orange, it says, orange-colored traffic cones, pumpkins, and strawberries. So with this page, I might say something like, "Are strawberries supposed to be red?" And then I get a lot of no, or excuse me, "Are strawberries supposed to be orange?" So after each color goes through and tries to help Red, Red starts to feel better, and then he can turn everything back to red again that's supposed to be red. So it's a cute story, and again, the first time I used this app, as soon as story time was over, the kids ran out to the Warwick Crayon kiosk and put this one on.
Cathy?
What's next? Yes.
Someone asked, do the books on these apps read themselves?
This one does not. So this one I read aloud. Some of them do.
Are you referring to the red one or the little fox?
Red.
Red. Okay.
Red. The Read in Bed, I read it. It does not give me an option
okay.
To have it read to us.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Little Fox Music Box. It's a sing-along songbook, and it can be bought for $4.99 in the App Store. It has 100 elements in 3 songs, and the Little Fox Music Studio, where you can record your own songs. I use this app mostly for the songs, so we have the options of London Bridge, Old MacDonald Had a Farm, and Evening Song. I really like the Old MacDonald option, as the kids think that's a lot of fun. We've sang Old MacDonald quite a bit in story time. So we sing this as we sing along with the app. I'll touch the animals and the objects to make them do fun things as we sing. They especially love when I touch the farmer. An acorn falls on his head to wake him up. And also the pig, as you can see, he's in the bathtub. When I touch the cord, he starts taking a shower. Feed the Animals activity. So this app is quite a bit more expensive, but for us it's worth it because the kids use it quite a bit while it's in our crayon kiosk. And you get 9 different games in the app, and they are all educational. So there's a pet salon, a doctor, jigsaw puzzles, flashcards, tracing, and more. I did see on iTunes that it's rated as one of the top 10 educational games worldwide. So right now I'm just focusing on Feed the Animals, the Feed the Animals game mode here. So with Feed the Animals, we are shown an animal and then given 3 options for food to feed that animal. So as you see with the dog, he's got a flower, a bone, and grass. So we can drag the food item over to the animal. If he likes it, he'll eat it. If he doesn't like it, he'll say something like yucky. So I've asked the kids which food do they think the animal would want to eat. So it's fun to act like I really don't know what the animal would want, give it the wrong food item, and watch the kids' reaction. They think it's pretty silly when the animal doesn't like something. So in these 2 pictures, I have just given them the correct food. So we've also talked a lot about what animals do like to eat and what other food items they might like to eat. So it's a learning tool as we play. Barnyard Dance, a story. So Barnyard Dance is $3.99. It's an interactive book app based on the book by Sandra Boynton. With Barnyard Dance, you can either choose to read it yourself or have it narrated. So you have those two options with this book app. So we can touch, tap, and pull the farm animals to help them join in the lively score dance. So most of the time I read it myself. So as I read with a ba and a moo and a cock-a-doodle-doo, everybody promenade 2 by 2. I'll touch the animal pairs and they turn and they move across the book. The animation and music is a lot of fun. Sandra Boynton is always a favorite in our story time, so the kids love this one, especially with the narration and fun music and sounds that go along with it. YouTube, shake your sillies out. I've actually just recently started using YouTube videos in my story time. I added this just to show you that you don't have to use just apps. Videos are pretty fun too. So for this story time, I've chosen Shake Your Sillies Out by the Learning Station for an action song. This song is just over 3 minutes, so I have cut it short after a few verses. It just all depends how your kids are reacting to it. With YouTube, the possibilities really are endless. Flannel board. 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. So we've talked about Flannel Board app earlier. Like I said, it is $2.99 in the App Store. So for this story time, I've chosen 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. I've got 3 screenshots from the flannel story I put together. I put each picture together with the Flannel Board app, and then I saved them to my photos and then made an album called 5 Little Monkeys that I then use to tell my story during story time. And like I said, this app is great. The kids don't mind when I don't use, they don't seem to miss the actual flannel board and the interaction there, so that's been fun. Another story, Go Away Big Green Monster. It's $2.99 in the App Store, and it is a book app based on the book by Ed Emberley. With this app, you can either have the book read to you by Ed Emberley, you can read it yourself, or there's a song version, which is fun. So for my story time, again, I've just used the read it myself option. This app builds upon the book experience by progressively revealing and then removing each piece of the Big Green Monster. This can be used like you would a felt board. You add the monster's eyes, hair, ears, nose. You can poke him to see what he does and watch him. He comes to life. So I love the Big Green Monster. I've been working on getting the kids to say, go away with me at the appropriate times. If thinking about themes, this book app is obviously good for Halloween and monster theme. I have also used this book in a silly theme story time and a color theme story time. This book is just so fun, and it really does fit in anywhere. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. We use this song a lot as a closing song. The music in this app is nice and calm. The kids already know this song well, and we can do the actions while we are listening and watching. I have used this song both in story time and at the end as a closing song. I've also brought out our shakers for this one as well. Using the apps in story time. So here are just a few pictures of me using the app at a couple of different story times. As you can see, I've got the TV up there with my iPad attached. In the first photo, we are using the MARCOPOLO weather app. The next two are just a couple from the Wheels on the Bus app. I typically start the app and then stand up and join the kids, but I knew that my coworker was taking a picture of me to use in this presentation, so I sat just a little bit longer than I would have normally. That's the great thing about projecting the iPad is I don't have to hold it the whole time for songs. I'm free to get up and participate with the kids. So I've listed here a few resources that are great if interested in using apps and learning more about them. The links, will be able to be found on the Nicolay website under Our Services and Continuing Education. Okay, so that's my Toddlers and Tablets presentation. I hope you have learned something or maybe feel inspired to add apps in your story times if you don't already. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions or if anybody has any comments.
All right, thank you, Cathy. And as Cathy just mentioned, we have a few minutes for any questions you might have. Or is there an app that you have used in Storytime for toddlers that wasn't mentioned today? And if you'd be willing to share it, type it in your question box. I can share that with the group. Cathy, I'm just wondering, since incorporating the iPad more into your story times, has that saved you time as far as preparation or not really? I'm just curious about that.
Well, I guess so. Then there's usually one less book I have to go and find, or one less song I have to worry about finding. It's right there. It's great, especially with the Feltboard app. It's been saving me a lot of cutting out, so that's my favorite one to use right now.
And what about as far as money? Do you feel it's like helped, by purchasing some of these apps, it's helped with your programming budget at all?
I think so, and it's great because of the apps that I use in Storytime, we also use out in our kiosk. So, we need apps for the kids to play, and it helps. It works both ways. It's great.
Kimberly mentioned as an activity, I've used the Fisher-Price apps that are free and can be used without their toys. She just sent me the link to that. I'm going to copy that and post that in the chat area. So if you click on that, attendees, it should take you right to that page if you'd like.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how long have you been using the apps with your story times? And you said you use about 2 to 3 per time?
Right. Typically about 2, and I've only been using them for about 8 months. So it's fairly new, but I've gotten such a great reaction. And there was one story time, one of my preschool story time actually, I didn't have any apps at all that we were going to use, and the kids noticed, and they weren't very happy with me. But
I was going to ask if the novelty has worn off, and it sounds like it hasn't.
No,
it sounds like it's something.
No, it hasn't. As long as I rotate them a lot, and some of their favorites they could probably do every time, but we rotate a lot.
And there were all of these apps ones that you downloaded and just figured out how to use on your own. Were they easy enough to do that?
They're very easy, and I had been looking online, and I found a lot of through the links that you're putting on the website. I found a lot of help there on great apps to use in story time, so that helped.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Sarah mentions, thanks for making it look so manageable and easy to include apps in Storytime. I am totally inspired, and I can't wait to try the Feltboard app.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to play around with it, but I can't wait to make some more fun stories.
Krista says, I've been demonstrating a toddler app at the beginning a couple times. Recently we did Little Writer, and I had parents messaging me for a reminder of the name of it. That's awesome. That's great.
Oh, great.
So I just want to mention, I'm sorry?
I said I wasn't aware. I don't know that one. I'm just writing that one down.
Yeah, Little Writer.
Little Writer, yep.
Yep. So as I mentioned, the recording today and the slides will be available later today on our website. I want to thank Cathy for giving a great presentation and very informative on all of these things we can start incorporating. And I want to thank all of you for listening in. And as I mentioned, when the webinar does end today, there will be a short survey that will appear on your screen. It's 2 questions, and your feedback is very important to us. So thank you to you all. Thank you to Cathy. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great week. So long.